Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. This is Karen, and we are going for another session of What If Tarot today, where we use tarot and oracle cards to see what spirit has to share with us, what wisdom spirit would like to share with us today, coupled with using our own intuition and imagination, as well as utilizing the power of storytelling and asking ourselves, what if, right? That powerful writer's prompt to tap into, you know, the power of story and the stories that we tell ourselves, and sometimes the stories that take on a life of their own in our lives, and maybe it's time to tell a new story to ourselves. We want to find out what we believe about ourselves and how we might change that story so we can remember who we really are and discover our innate power and let that power come out. So this is the second time I am recording this. The first time there was a technical glitch, so I'm not going to pull new cards. I've already asked Mother, Father, God, the universe, the creator, to come in and let spirit guide this message and speak through me. And let's just jump into the cards that came out. So the very first one that came out is the Three of Wands reversed. I'll show you what it looks like right side up so you can see, but it came out in the reverse position. And again, this is the Tarot of the Divine deck, which is an absolutely beautiful deck that is based on folk tales and fairy tales and stories of deities from around the world. So let me read to you what this one is about. Hold it up so you can see her. So this one is based on the story of the Enchanted Pig from Romania. It's a Romanian fairy tale. The Three of Wands represents hard work and travel. The princess takes a long journey to rescue her prince, making sacrifices and surviving trials along the way. If she stays motivated, her efforts will be rewarded. So the Three of Wands in the upright position typically means, you're in the traditional tarot deck, right? There's someone standing there waiting for their ship to come in. They have three wands and they've determined, that they know their way forward. They're just waiting for that ship to come in. They've done the planning. So it's talking about momentum and confidence and moving forward. You're actively working towards your goals. So then if you imagine what it means in the reverse, there's some delays, there's some setbacks. Things aren't really going in the way that you hope to see them go, right? There's a lack of progress in your life. Ask yourself, what if there was a situation in my life where things aren't going the way I want them to? Can I imagine why that might be? What if this relationship that has gotten stuck, what if there were an answer? What if there were a way to figure out what was going on with that relationship? What if maybe it's a work situation, right? Maybe what if there were another way to look at where I'm stuck in my career or these plans that I want to move forward? What if there were a way to figure out what was going on? Okay. So the next card that was pulled was the Eight of Swords in the upright position. Now, can you see? Here we go. The Eight of Swords typically is about someone who is stuck in their head, someone who is stuck by kind of the lies that they're telling themselves, right? So you can see around it, I'll read you what this card represents, but in the typical tarot deck, the Eight of Swords is someone who is sort of trapped themselves in their own imagination, in the lies that they're telling themselves, really. So you can see this person there's these eight swords stuck all around, but all she has to do is stand up and walk away. They're not really trapping her, right? So Eight of Swords represents somebody that, is trapping themselves by their own thoughts. These swords, at any point, she can get up and walk away, right? So let me find and tell you, since we are so into story here and seeing, sometimes, and the reason I'm reading these particular you never know if the story somehow is going to resonate with somebody. So, plus we love story here, right? So the this Eight of Swords card, the picture on it represents a story from France, a French fairy tale called Donkey Skin. The Eight of Swords represents being caught up in your own insecurities. Donkey Skin was forced into hiding to escape a bad situation. Now she is faced with the decision to continue the life she has created or to step out of her self-made prison. Exactly. All right, so what if, and referring back to that Three of Wands in reverse card, so you have this situation, whether with your career or in a relationship, where there's lack of progress. Things are not progressing as you want them to. And so you've probably been feeling frustration or confusion about, like, why is this relationship not moving forward? Why is my career not going in the way I want it? So this Eight of Swords card is suggesting that maybe it's in your head, for lack of a not great way of putting it, but you have created some sort of story in your head that is basically of your own making, right? It's not really based on a real situation. So you're standing in your own way here for some reason. All right, so let's take it a little bit further. The next card that came up was the Emperor in reverse. Okay, so if you think about what does an emperor represent? They are leadership, they are mature, they get things. Hold them so you can see them a little bit better. This light is not great, right? And this particular card is based on the story of King Arthur. All right, so imagine everything you know about King Arthur, but then flip them upside down, right? So if you think about King Arthur in reverse, right, what would that look like? Maybe someone who is dominating or angry or rigid or, sort of using force instead of letting things flow, and think about what a good leader. I think we can all sort of think about what good leaders look like today and what bad leaders look like, right? But let me actually find this. I think we all are familiar with King Arthur, but King Arthur is actually based, obviously, out of Britain. This lighting is not good. It's based actually on a Celtic legend. The emperor is the ideal father figure, a warrior and a conqueror. King Arthur rules over his kingdom and his sometimes unruly knights with a just and firm hand. He unifies the fractious, defends the weak, and lends his knowledge and understanding to all his subjects. So this is saying here that, upright stability, leadership, bravery, bold action, structure, reversed immaturity, pettiness, rigidity, domination, and anger. So what if, and those are harsh words, but give yourself a break here, just hold on. What if, so you have this situation that's not moving forward, right? This situation that's kind of stuck, being given a hint by spirit here that maybe it's some story that you're telling yourself in your head, right? You've created some sort of block. You're telling yourself some story, and that story, what if that story that you've been telling yourself is pushing your buttons, right? It is someone or something that is pushing your buttons and causing, it's like a trigger, and you are that trigger. That story you're telling yourself is triggering you to maybe act a little petty or act a little immature, or react with anger. A lot of times, one of the things I've been learning or had to learn quite a bit about is responding instead of reacting. And typically when we react, it's because something pushed our buttons. And quite actually, I'll be full on truthful here. This Eight of Swords card is one that has, not this particular one, but in general, I can't tell you how many, when I do a personal reading for myself, how often over the last 9 months of this healing journey, the Eight of Swords has come up. I have been my own worst enemy in so many ways. And it can sting to find out that all along it's been yourself that's been standing in your way. And I've definitely also had the reverse emperor pulled on me many times too, because when when we get triggered, it is about wounding of some sort or another. And the stories that you tell yourself, it's not that you're a bad person, you have some wound. And so you create this story as a way to defend yourself, right? You put up all these swords around you. That's protection. It's not because you're an asshole. You're trying to protect yourself, right? So you've dug all these swords in the ground as a way to, as a fence around you, right? But it's hurting you instead of helping you. And so, you may come off as a bit of a jerk to, within your own self, right? So think about, again, what if in this situation, this trigger, right? Start thinking about how you've created this Eight of Swords as a response to the trigger. And so where did the trigger come from? What's the deeper wound, right? It's like we have to go deeper inside to find that out. The next one that I pulled is the Page of Coins, or Coins or Pentacles. So the Page of Pentacles in reverse. And let me just start out with telling you the story. So this is based on, let me hold so you can actually see what it looks like up front. Let's see what that looks like. It's a cute little card. So Biavi Nieda out of Sweden, which is a Sami deity. So the Page of Coins, or this Biavi Niedi, welcomes the beginning of spring and summer, a fresh start, the end of darkness. Biavi Nieda represents how, and if anyone is from Sweden, I'm sorry for desecrating this pronunciation. Biavi Nieda represents hope, setting up solid foundations and mental wellness. She is grounded and anticipates the bright future. So upright, they're saying, is she's about, the Page of Coins is about setting goals, loyalty, positivity, opportunities, manifestation. Reversed, a lack of common sense, immaturity, laziness, apathy, right? So again, this is based on this book. How I've come to know the Page of Pentacles, it's about setting goals and opportunities, right? And reversed, she speaks about sort of a lack of focus and a bit of instability, struggling with commitment, even procrastination, right? So think about, again, applying this to this storyline. Think about, like, what if, so you're stuck, you've built up this wall of swords to protect you because you were triggered, right? You have something that is making you react in a way that you normally wouldn't react. You're normally, that's not your modus operandi. You're not a jerk. You're just reacting out of anger, some wound. Somebody poked a wound. And again, whether this is in a relationship of yours, in your career. And so really, the Page of Coins in reverse is kind of saying the same thing as the Emperor in reverse, right? It's like somehow, I think this is spirit confirming. It's kind of like the same, both cards actually said immaturity. And again, that's kind of an ouchy, ouchy word to use. It's just confirming that whatever this situation is really has you triggered. Something is pushing your buttons, and so the stories that you're coming up with to guard against that trigger are keeping you stuck in your relationship or in your career. Okay, so then the next card that came up is the Four of Coins, the Four of Pentacles. And let me tell you, so normally the Four of Pentacles is, and I'll show you the card. So coins again are pentacles, and pentacles represent earthly things. A lot of times your finances, your resources, things in the tangible world. And you see that she's holding on to those Four Pentacles for dear life, but really there are 10 pentacles. So you go from the Ace of Pentacles up to 10, and then you get into the royalty cards, but there's 10, like 10 pentacles is the most pentacles you can have, and it's a great, it's real success and financial wealth. But she's holding on to these four like she's never going to be able to get another, she better hold on or she's never going to get another one. So it's a little bit like hoarding. It's a little, it's like hyper protecting yourself. for whatever reason. So this card is actually based on the story of the Condor's Wife out of Peru. It's an Aymara folktale. The Four of Coins represents greed and an unwillingness to open up or share. Condor covets his wife, who does not like his lifestyle or living with him. He recognizes her unhappiness, but is unwilling to make changes or set her free. So reversed, oh no, this one wasn't reversed. So they're saying hoarding, possession, financial stability, materialism, stinginess. As I said, she's holding on tight, and if you hold on too tight to something, you can definitely stagnate, right? You can not move forward. It can just sort of get up in your head. So the last card that second to last card that sort of pulls this all together, and I thought it was a great. So this card is actually, it's from one of my favorite decks of all time, which is Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron Reid. And if any of you have thought about getting an Oracle deck for yourself, I highly recommend this deck, because I cannot tell you how many times this deck has helped me. And the card that came out really dovetails with this whole message. So card number 37, Never Ending Story. Okay. The essential meanings, let's see if I can, that light is just reflecting badly on this, but the essential meanings are self-criticism, the wounded ego, unnecessary dramas. The Oracle's message is that there is a story woven through the imperfect fabric of life that tells of hurt and loss, rejection and humiliation, self-loathing and arrogance, and all manner of suffering born of unnecessary dramas. It is the old story whose refrain is that you cannot do this, you must not go there, you should not say that, lest your world come crumbling down. Today, know that none of this is actually true. The sky is not falling. The voice you hear is just a small, scared, conditioned part of you that got stuck in a lie, wants to protect you, and needs to be seen as a victim. Love that lost piece of you. Fear is all it knows. Distorted guidance is preventing you from being true to yourself. You are not your story. And the narrator is simply the voice of your fearful part, small and vulnerable and easily soothed. It's about changing, it's about changing story that because somebody's been poking you, somebody's been triggering you, it's been making this story in your head, make up all these story, you make up the excuses. But it's a never-ending story, right? So if you're stuck, that's why. Because you keep telling yourself the same story. And it's because, like I said, it's not because you're an asshole, it's because you've got a wound, right? Today, let me repeat it. Today, know that none of this is actually true. The sky is not falling. The voice you hear is just a small, scared, conditioned part of you that got stuck in a lie, wants to protect you, and needs to be seen as a victim. Love that lost part of you. I don't know if you watched any of my other videos, but the whole point is we cannot hate ourselves into change. We have to, I have got to get this. I have a different camera coming in, so sorry I keep not looking in the camera. We have this tendency to think that the only way we can change ourselves is to be a jerk to ourselves, right? Is to hate it out of us. And it doesn't work like that. The only way we can create change within ourselves is to love that part of ourselves. And then that tendency to get triggered gets less and less and less. If you're kind to yourself about it, it will allow you to change your story, right? And for those of you who are interested, let me actually read, because one of the reasons I love this Wisdom of the Oracle is, so I just read you the sort of overall Oracle's message, but then she splits it into two. If it's about a relationship, there's specific advice. If there's a prosperity message, or if it's about your career or finances, that type of thing, your resources, there's a specific message. And then there's actually a specific message if the card came out upside down, which it did not in this instance. The never-ending story came out upright. It's a never-ending story. And again, this card has come up for me so many freaking times, I can't tell you. But if this has been about a relationship, the direct advice is sometimes your heart enters into a contract with another that results in pain, not because of abuse or neglect, but for other more complex reasons. Shame, fear of intimacy, and low self-esteem are the greatest challenges to the success of a relationship. Consider how valuable this knowledge is, however. Right now, you have an opportunity for important healing, but you must reflect on the stories you weave about love, connection, abandonment, rejection, and loneliness. Not only do you need to begin a new story, you need to forgive yourself for telling yourself the old one. Have compassion for the part of you that believes all those narratives. None of them were ever true anyway. None of them were ever true anyway. Thank you, Spirit. You, man, pulling all the message together. Okay, so that's about if it was a relationship. If you've been stuck in this place of being, your lack of progress with your career, you can't seem to make any financial change, whatever. If this is about prosperity in some way, here's your direct advice. Fear, envy, procrastination, greed, and the perception of victimhood could all be active in your life at this moment. Are you comparing yourself with others, thinking their success should be yours? This sounds like the upside down emperor. Maybe you're afraid of all the good that is coming your way, so you step out of your lane, totally aware of what you're doing, but seemingly powerless to stop yourself. Oh my God, I've been there. Are you back where you started, or in a situation that reminds you of past failures? Me again. Financial insecurity scaring you? You must learn to love yourself through missteps and sabotaging moments. Use criticism constructively right now. Like I said, like hearing, nobody wants to hear that they're being immature. Good God, right? It's like, thanks, Karen. Like, thanks, Spirit, for making me talk about that. But it's true, right? Criticism constructively right now. Better yet, stop telling this story altogether. Make up a new one. The universe loves you deeply and will wait for you to figure that out. Tell a new story and success is all but guaranteed. You can do it. You can do it. Okay. Finally, last card that I pulled is the beautiful from Dragon Path Oracle. Card number 22, and 22 is a master number. Serene. Look at this beautiful dragon. Fix this light one of these days. Can you see? So Serene says, gently flowing water and a warm summer breeze depict this dragon's energy beautifully. Serene connects to the calm and resilient energy of Mother Mary. So you can rest assured that life is going to settle down, especially if it has been rather turbulent of late. It's not great, but there we go. She says, Serene says, I am the lapping of waves in the morning sun. Allow me to wrap you in my blue cloak of tranquility and accept my presence as pure calm settles around you. When your inner perceptions shift, so will your outer world experiences. Let me repeat that. When your inner perceptions shift, so will your outer world experiences. Remember that the tranquility you seek lies within. The volatile outside scenario is only a mirror of turbulence inside. Call upon me to guide you to that piece of heaven you crave. Observe your life experiences changing as they begin to mirror your inner feelings of serenity. She encourages us to go gently with ourselves. We are quick, in other words, love yourself, right? We are quick to nurture others, but often neglect our own needs. We must feed ourselves with that which brings us joy and makes us feel alive. As we accept that we are important, our worldly experiences will reshape and shift in a positive way. So, I wish you all success. I know that if you take some time and reflect on how you can switch your story up, starting with going inside and figuring out those deeper triggers and loving yourself through them and forgiving yourself for creating those lies you tell yourself, right? One of my enduring messages that has been coming through for years is about the lies we tell ourselves and the lies we're told. And in this instance, you can see, the lies that we tell ourselves create these never-ending stories that these repeating cycles going over and over and over. So I wish you every success as you will see your situation change if you allow yourself to start telling a different story. All right. Love you guys. I wish you all the best, and we'll see you next time.